Hello. April 7th just turned 8 o'clock on my computer, and I'm waiting for the go ahead from my colleague that the audio is working. If you haven't met me yet, I'm Amanda Neely. I look forward to meeting you one day. Today's going to be a little different for me than usual. Usually, I have my trusted colleague, aka my husband, Brandon, making sure things are going well with the technical side, but there's a community meeting going on right now. And so he is watching it and not right here. So hopefully he's checking in on this too to let me know that the audio is working. I guess I will just pretend it is and hope that everything is good with the audio. Cool. So today we're going to talk about this question. How could I possibly make any changes during this time? And the key word today is change. I realized when I put that up, it like makes me look really short. Maybe I should adjust a little bit here. I have to just say something before I start talking about change. So wearing a hat, pretty chill here. I know I've actually heard a lady who shall remain nameless say that she is not going live on camera right now because she can't go get her hair done. And that's really sad because I know her voice, there could be a lot of really cool stuff for her to share, particularly during this time. And I wish she would go live, like be on video. And so, oh, you might have just heard that. There we go. We are good. Okay. So, yeah, I wish she was live on video because I'd love to hear what she has to say and like see her face while she's saying it. But nonetheless, she does not want to do that because she can't get her hair done. Me, on the other hand, I want to put forth an example. If I ever have a daughter, right? I have a son right now, but if I ever have a daughter, I want her to feel comfortable going live on TV, on YouTube with a hat, like after the long day with a long walk outside and running around with, like her family and doing stuff to do this because you totally know a dude would, right? Like a guy would totally come on here, whatever he looks like, he's got something to share, he'd do it. So I'm trying to lead by example that way, what I would want my daughter, if I ever had one, or whatever young girl finds this video in the future, whatever. This is who I am. This is what I look like at 8 o'clock on a Tuesday evening, April 7th. I didn't like change anything about, actually, I was wearing another shirt earlier today to look professional for meetings, and I changed into this shirt because we are going for a walk and it's hot outside. And so I didn't want to like sweat all in my nice work shirt. So I was like, I'm not going to change back. I'm going to be myself on this video. So hope you appreciate that. And if that inspires you to be yourself in whatever situation you find yourself in, whether it's going live, being part of an online meeting, or after, like talking to somebody on the phone, I hope that's an encouragement to you. So today we're talking about change. And the key question is, how could I possibly make any changes during this time? I've heard from so many people that they're just hunkering down. They're not making any changes, particularly with their finances. And I want to talk about maybe if that's right, or if that's somewhat right, or if there's something else we could look at there. I'm going to turn off this little thing because it makes me look really short. Not that, I mean, I am short, but whatever. I like to start with some perspective, some inspirational quotes. So I'm going to read these. I've actually got a few today because it turns out that this quote book that I have has a bunch of quotes about change, and they're very good. This first one is why there's a picture of a boat on your screen right now, because this is the first one I came across. It says this: the pessimist complains about the wind. The optimist expects it to change. The realist adjusts the sails. Isn't that really powerful? The pessimist complains about the wind, right? The wind picks up. The pessimist says, "Oh, I wished it wasn't so windy. I would, move to like I'd love to move somewhere else where it's not so windy." I used to say that when I lived in Chicago. Oh, the wind, right? It's so annoying, especially in the winter. Like Yeah, just I'm not going outside because there's so much wind. Complain about it. The optimist expects it to change. In the winter in Chicago, I would hope and dream for the summer in Chicago because then the wind is so nice and it feels so good. Like summer in Chicago is the reason people live in Chicago. If you've never been, go in the summer. And that's kind of the optimistic side of me, right? I think of summer in Chicago. That's the only reason I live there in the winters, at least up until recently. And then finally, the realist adjusts the sails. The You can imagine if you're in a boat and the wind picks up and you don't change your sails, you're not going to get where you meant to go, right? If the wind shifts from one direction to the other direction. I'm not a sailor. I don't know the terms, but you can imagine like you have to adjust the sails in order to get where you want to go. Isn't that what happens during a crisis, right? You're going along, you got your sails set a certain way on your boat, and then the wind changes. Don't you have to shift your sails around? Maybe lower them, maybe raise them, maybe turn them a different direction. And you do that as fast as you can so that you continue on the same path. Isn't that such a good analogy for this question? How could I possibly make any changes during this time? If you have that perspective, that destination that you have in mind, I was going to this port over there, or this is where I wanted to go on my journey, and the winds change, society changes, we have a new normal, whatever it is. Don't you need to make some changes in order to still get to that spot or somewhere near it? Like, so how could you possibly make any changes during this time? That's how, because you're thinking about your ultimate destination and you're making the necessary changes to get you there, doing the best you can to read the winds, right? The winds could change all of a sudden again, and then you change again. Now, granted, you have to have your financial tools and how you plan financially able to make those changes, right? It has to be flexible and changeable, and that's something I want to talk about more about financial flexibility and how we build that. But if you do have flexibility, you're able to make those changes. So that's the first thought about how could I possibly make any changes during this time, is that actually times like this are when change is most necessary. When the winds shift, that's when you really need to change. Okay, now there's actually like a couple more. This next one, which one is this? Hold on. I lost my place. I'll get there. Bear with me. Oh, okay. Change starts when someone sees the next step. Change starts when someone sees the next step. I just realized I forgot to attribute who that first quote was to. Let me do that real quick because that's important. I want you to know who said these things. Page 57. So that first one about optimism. Nope, that's not the right one. Hold on. I'm so sorry about this. This is important to me to tell you who says things. And if I just skipped over it, then that's not what I want to happen. 13. Sorry. No. Why? 91. Okay, it's got to be an even page because it was on the other side. 70. That's got to be it. Okay, page 70. Okay, William Arthur Ward. That's who said, the pessimist complains about the wind, the optimist expects it to change, and the realist adjusts the sails. William Arthur Ward. Okay, now for this next one. Change starts when someone sees the next step. This was said by William Drayton in Esquire. Change starts when someone sees the next step. This makes me think the reason people don't change is because they can't see the next step forward. They can't see the next way to step to take in order to get to that ultimate goal. It's unclear. It's clouded by whatever. And this, I think, applies most to people who have money in the stock market, right? When the stock market has some steep dive like we had in March, and then since then it's been going up and down and up and down and all over the place. If you've been following it, or if you look back at even just the last month or so, it's all over the place. And that is, I think, part of why people don't want to make any changes. They don't want to sell their stocks during this time, or move from this stock to another stock, or move from stocks to bonds, or whatever it is, because they can't see the next step. They can't see what comes next. And, or, like, because you know what the market's at today, you don't know what the market's going to be at an hour from now, or a day from now, or a week from now. And so you can't see that next step. And that makes change really, really hard. And isn't that how it's always going to be if you're in the stock market? Are you ever going to see the next step? No, no one can time the market perfectly. I mean, even people that sold in December or in January, they still didn't time it perfectly. Like if they would have waited till March 14th at 12 p.m. or whatever it was and sold then, nobody, out of all the people invested in the stock market, probably less than 1% sold at the exact right time they should, because no one can see the next step. No one sees what's coming next. And it was just a fluke, probably, that those people traded or sold at the right time. But what if you could get out of that game? What if your next step was to say, okay, I want to change. I'm going to choose my next step, and I'm going to be okay with whatever happens, because I know and I believe that this is the right next step for me. Whether I gain a lot of money or lose a lot of money, or I'm somewhere in between, right? This is what I know to be the next step for me, and is going to get me to the next port, right? The next place I want to go. I'm going to make that change. So we started with this boat analogy, this idea like a realist sees the wind change and adjusts the sail accordingly. And it's because the person on the boat can see where they're going, right? You're in this body of water, you can see where you're going. And even if it's really, really stormy, at least from what I've seen on movies, right? You can't see where you're going, but you know to lower the sail. You know to do something when it's really stormy so that your boat won't capsize. You even know the sail's not going to do anything. You just need to throw stuff overboard or get on a lifeboat and get out of there, whatever it is. You see the next step and you make the change accordingly. And when we're in turbulent times, whatever kind of boat we're in, we need to think along those terms. Like, what is that next step? What is the next thing to do? And let's say you're like, I do think I want to get out of the stock market, or at least a portion of my money out of the stock market. Maybe you don't have to sell all at once. You sell a little bit and you see what happens. You see what happens with where you put that, and then you sell a little bit more. Or if you want to get into the stock market, maybe you do that same kind of thing. I don't know. But you can always, the next step doesn't have to be some big, huge leaping bound. It can be a small step, a hesitant step, but it's still a step, right? It's not just standing still. So change starts when someone sees the next step. I think that's a really great one. Again, William Drayton. And then finally, on the next page here, I believe there was another good one. Oh, this is so good, guys. Okay. Not everything that is faced can be changed, but nothing can be changed until it is faced. James Baldwin. Not everything that is faced can be changed, but nothing can be changed until it is faced. And I think this has to do a lot with seeing the next step. You have to face, right? The thing that's in your way, the thing that you would like to see change in. You have to look it in the eyes and say, okay, who are you? What are you really about? What are you doing with the wealth I'm trying to accumulate? You have to face it, ask those kinds of questions so that you can change it. It's virtually impossible to change anything with your head in the sand, right? Like you can literally picture your head underneath the sand, like buried. Little hard to change anything when you're that way. Figuratively, right? Same kind of thing. If you are ignoring the problems or the opportunities, right? This can be a positive thing too. If you're ignoring them, you don't see them. They just skip you by, right? How many opportunities come like zooming by us that we never see because we're not willing to face what change we'd like to see. Not everything that is faced can be changed, right? We can't change that we're going through this coronavirus. We can say we're flattening the curve, like that's what we can change, but we can't change that we need to social distance and wash our hands and stay home and only go out for essential services and stuff like that, right? That's good to do those things. Not everything that we face can be changed, but nothing can be changed until it's faced. So, what is it that you have control over? Like we talked about yesterday, um, you control what you do with your money. That's something you can choose. What does it look like to face that so that you can change it? Right? That's kind of the question. How could I possibly make any changes during this time? You look at what's within your control and then you change those things. Now, I know some of you are like you hate change. And I will totally be honest about my bias. I love change. Actually, one of the funny things is that we moved from one state to a totally different state just as the coronavirus is hitting the United States. We actually, it was before there was any mandatory, stay-at-home orders in effect. It was at that point just wash your hands. Be diligent about health and safety and stuff. And we were like, we have to move. We have our closing. This is going to happen. And so we move. We had this huge change just before then everybody had to stay at home. And we were, all of these things went into place. And part of me is glad that I made that change beforehand because moving during, right? Like now, if I was to move today, right, the state that I'm in has, if you're coming from out of state, you have to have a 14-day quarantine. So we wouldn't be able to do anything for 14 days. The place we moved from has a lot more of the virus happening there. So maybe, at least as of right now, right? So maybe I wouldn't even have been able to move because maybe I would have gotten the virus. Like, I actually feel really blessed and fortunate that we moved when we did. And that can kind of feel like, well, then change is scary because if you do it at the wrong time, like then things could be really, really bad, right? And I can understand that and appreciate that because of what we're going through. But I could also see like if I would have waited and not be changing, right, and stay forever where I was before, then that opens me up to all kinds of other things that could happen, both positive and negative. But also moving opens me up to all kinds of positive and negative things. There's like change in and of itself, I don't think is good or bad. It's how you react to change, how you choose change, how you enter into change. The things that are within your control, that is what gives change its meaning, right? And I want to finish with this Sidney J. Harris quote. I'm going to start with the person's name this time. And Sidney has this one. Our dilemma is that we hate change and love it at the same time. What we really want is for things to remain the same, but get better. Isn't that so true? We have like this love-hate relationship with change. And, like we love it and hate it at the same time. But who doesn't want things to get better? Whatever your definition of better is, who doesn't want things to get better, right? But guess what you have to do in order for things to get better? You have to change. So here's kind of, this is me like talking off the cuff, but this is where I kind of land. How could I possibly make any changes during this time? How could I make any adjustments? I mean, kind of the question becomes, how could you not make any changes? Even so, I heard Dr. Fauci, which my vote's for him to be the sexiest man alive, besides my husband. But like if somebody's going to go on the cover of People magazine as the sexiest man alive, Dr. Fauci, you got my vote, whatever that matters. But I heard him say today that, or like a recording of him saying this probably yesterday or something, that, oh crap, I lost what he said because I was making that reference to People's Magazine. What did he say? Oh, he said we're probably not going to go back to pre-coronavirus, like as if coronavirus never happened. There will be lasting differences in how we operate, this quote unquote new normal that everybody talks about. So when I hear that, it makes me think, how could I possibly not make any changes during this time? If the world is changing around me, if the winds have changed, how can I not adjust my sails? Right? How can I ignore the change and go about as business as normal? Yes, I'm all for approaching change in a critical, analytical way, right? You don't just rush into change. You got to sit, think about it, talk with other people about it, choose what you're doing, and knowing full well the different consequences, both positive and negative, of the choice that you're making. But that doesn't mean you don't change and you don't seek out, how is the wind changing? What do I believe about the changes that are happening? And what does that mean for how I need to change my behavior, what I do with my money, all of those kind of things. And today has kind of been an opening a can of worms kind of thing, like putting this out there, sharing a little bit about opening our minds to change. And then over the next week or so, we're going to be looking at what are some of the practical changes that you could make. I haven't done this yet, but I thought I'd give you a little sneak peek. Tomorrow, I want to be talking about thinking long term and how that's kind of a change from thinking, let's just get through the next 24 hours, to thinking about long term, and what I'm going to talk about, what that means and how you could do that. Then we're going to ask, what's the best place to put my money right now? If I was saving or investing in X, is that still the best place to put my money? Or is there Y or Z or A or H or whatever? Very practical. What's the best place to put my money? On the 10th, I'm actually going to be doing a Facebook Live earlier in the day with one of my colleagues. And then I want to talk that night on the YouTube here and on our personal page, or our business page, for this, about this question: who do I want to be when this crisis is over, and how that can help us change. Then on the 11th, Saturday, what money practices could I continue and discontinue? Very practical, like the actual things I'm doing with my money. What do I want to continue or discontinue with them? Things like saving or giving, right? And when is the next day? When is it time to tap into retirement funds? Very practical. Like, should I keep contributing my 401k and getting a match? Should I tap into that and use it to help me get through this crisis? So on and so forth. The 13th, or next Monday, we're going to talk a lot about the market and this idea, like, will it bounce back? And then the 14th, next Tuesday, I've got a really big, very controversial question to ask that I'm not quite ready to reveal yet. So I'll just leave you hanging on that one. I just realized. Oh, and hi, Mary. Thanks for watching. I just saw that Grandma's Wealth Wisdom told me to say hi, Mary. So hi, Mary. I'm having some mom brain issues today. I'm losing my train of thought a little bit. So We're talking about change. How could you possibly not make any changes, right? Because the wind has changed. It's time to change the sails. And then we're going to talk over the next week about some of those practical things to do, different changes you might consider. And as I was talking through those, a thought came to my mind that I wanted to conclude with, and now I'm missing it. While I'm trying to remember it, please make sure you subscribe to this YouTube channel, or if you're watching this on Facebook, like the Facebook page so that you get those next topics that are coming up. After those topics, and then that controversial one that I'm not willing to reveal yet, we're going to do a business week where we're talking to small business owners and freelancers and sharing some things that are specific to you. They're not going to be about the different SBA loans and PPP and all that kind of stuff. They're going to be things you're not hearing everywhere else. We might touch on those things a couple times, but not fully. And yeah, I still don't remember what I was going to say. Nope. It was something about something, and I don't remember. Some change or something. I should probably stop talking today because my mom brain is taking over. It's been quite a day. I hope you've had a good day, had some good interactions with people. I know I've had some great interactions with some people today and some great fun in the nice weather here in Cincinnati. I know there's still that community meeting going on that I'm hoping to go catch the tail end of it. I know this is a really cool change that I heard about today. This is it. This is the best thing to conclude on. So 7:00 today, my new neighborhood here in Cincinnati, their community council started a meeting, and their first presenter in that meeting was a fireman. And that fireman was sharing about the different things that the fire department's doing to help keep everybody safe and how they're wearing their personal protective gear. They're talking to people from outside their homes before they go in their homes to see, they're doing all the things, right? And the coolest thing that I heard, that's a big change that they made. If you watch Chicago Fire, the TV show, like they pride themselves on the food that they cook, right? That you always see them in the kitchen. That's where they hang out. The firemen and women are making food, and that's where they are. And they're proud of the recipes that they have, and so on and so forth. They have chili cook-offs and whatnot. This fireman was saying that once a shift or once a week, or I forget how often, they are choosing to go to a local business in our community and get a bunch of food to bring back to the firehouse to eat together, so that they're supporting the local businesses in our community. And I think that is such a cool change to make. He said it's kind of weird, right? Because they love the food that they make. They're always used to eating in their kitchen, but they know it's the right thing to do. And if that doesn't inspire me to think of what are some of the changes that I could make during this time, not only to help myself, but to help others around me that are struggling right now. How could I possibly make change during this time? Making change, having an impact. How could I possibly help someone else get to a better place, adjust their sails, move toward their port? How could I possibly not do that during this time? And thank you, fireman. I forget his name, Keith or something, that was talking. That truly inspired me today. I love that you shared that. I love that our local fire department's doing that. If that rings true for you, right? And you're thinking, I could never make any changes right now. There's no way I'm going to sell any stock or buy any stock or invest in something new or revisit my entire financial plan. Fine. That's your call to make. But think about what change you can make that'll help brighten someone else's day and bring them to a better place, and do that, if nothing else, right? If that's the adjustment to your sales, that will not only, I believe, brighten their day, but will brighten your own as well. Because when you give is when you receive. Giving's contagious because there's such a high that comes from sharing with someone else and doing something that's good for your neighbors, your community, for the world, whatever that looks like. So if you take nothing else from this long ramble, take that. Make a change that benefits someone else if you can't make a change to benefit yourself right now. Okay, that's it for today. I'll catch you tomorrow. Again, the topic tomorrow is what advantages are there to thinking long term still? As you go through a crisis, any advantage to thinking long term? We're going to talk about that tomorrow. I will catch you then. Peace.